Hogstye.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Hogstye, and hope you all had a happy Thanksgiving as we now move into Christmas season where you'll just have nonstop Christmas music playing in your head, and you don't have a choice about it. It's just going to be everywhere. So even if you're sitting in your house and you don't have music on, somehow you'll hear it.
Would you like to take a stab at what my all-time favorite Christmas album is?
Christmas album?
Yep.
Well, I know you're a rock and roll guy, and I'm not a big Christmas album guy, so I'm not.
I didn't think the Grinch came out with any kind of album.
Yeah.
Would either of you like to take a shot at it?
I mean,
you know what? There was this one. I'm going way back for it though. It's just the one of my parents used to have. It's almost like a rockin' Christmas type of album. I forget the
rocking
title
around
of
the Christmas
You're
tree,
way
that kind of
off.
thing.
No, not that far back.
Okay.
Not that far back.
Because I would say, Steve, you could even, it's Christmas. You could just go with a classic like Bing Crosby, and it wouldn't surprise me.
You're way off.
Okay.
A Twisted Christmas by Twisted Sister.
Ah.
That is my all-time favorite Christmas album. I highly recommend everybody check it out.
I did not know they did a Christmas album.
It's the greatest thing ever. They've reworked a lot of their songs and with Christmas lyrics and then written a few new ones. It is the greatest Christmas album ever made.
It's not the first time I heard about that. I never actually listened to it. I'm going to have to listen to it.
Oh man, it's so good.
Okay.
Yeah, let me tell you haven't lived until you heard Dee Snider screaming about Christmas at the top of the songs.
Yeah, I knew it was going to be some metal.
Oh, absolutely.
Or hard rock of some kind.
It's the only album I know of like this.
Right. I'm surprised.
That's the only album I've ever heard of like that.
Yeah.
I'm honestly surprised more musicians don't do a random Christmas album. I'm sure a lot of depending on the genre do, but it is.
We got Mariah Carey.
Yeah.
Steve rolls his eyes.
I assume every country singer has a Christmas album.
Yeah.
Just
pretty
to
much.
say that, right?
You know who's great about those kind of things? Like Jim Brewer, the comedian.
Yeah.
He does a spot-on imitation of Brian Johnson from AC/DC. And I've seen him at shows and stuff. I've never seen him live, but on videos of his shows where he's singing AC/DC songs with crazy, insane lyrics, but with a perfect voice. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah. How was your guys' Thanksgiving? Good? Everyone good? Did you watch all the games? Because we're going to talk about one of the teams that played. So
I watched some of them.
Yeah.
Not all. Yeah. It was kind of on in the background.
Sure.
Yeah, that's how it was for me. So
I was very thankful that we did not have a Redskin game to watch. Of course, this year I wouldn't have watched it. I would have simply watched the recording later.
Right.
We should have thought about that years ago.
Yeah. My family has always had a hard and fast, you can't sit there and watch the game while we're having dinner kind of policy.
Formal people.
Yes. Well, we have a formal dining room. We do this all.
I have one, and nobody sat in it except me sitting at the piano in a decade.
So of course, during Thanksgiving, you always get the polls of what's your favorite side, what's the top sides, what's your number one go-to side with your Thanksgiving dinner.
Well, see, I mean, I'm gonna have to pass on this because my diet is crazy now, and so but I'll let Alex. I'll get my in the past.
Well, just step back in the past. That's fine.
I was eating a full favorite side. I mean, do you count stuffing as a side?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I would go with a certain type of stuffing because some of it's awful, but a very particular type of stuffing. That'd be
my mom
favorite.
makes a delicious cornbread mushroom stuffing that we always have, and that's one of my favorites. I mean, you got to pile gravy and everything on top of it, but that's what stuffing's for. We were very traditional about what was at Christmas or not Thanksgiving every year because old Jews in the family didn't want change.
You have a Christmas Thanksgiving ham, do you?
No. So the funny part is we don't do it at a kosher house.
Oh, you
but
don't?
We've never had a ham. But now they're all old, and some of them are starting to get dementia. So we were like, all right, we're sneaking some ham into here, or sneaking some mac and cheese into the rotation now. So
Is mac and cheese not kosher?
it's got milk, and you can't have
yeah,
milk. And
yeah, okay, yeah.
no dairy and meat on the same plate. So yeah, traditionally that would not be kosher.
Okay, Dave, what's yours? Lay it on us.
Well, mine's very simple. Sweet potatoes with a lot of brown sugar,
God.
butter, and roasted marshmallows on top of it.
I thought
it's absolutely the best side.
I thought
Number
I
one on
liked
my
you,
book.
But I consider that a character flaw, like a deep down fundamental character flaw. I really do.
So just to change it up, since you already wanted stuffing, Steve, I'm going to say cranberry sauce. I actually love a real cranberry sauce, not like the canned stuff.
That's your character flaw.
Well, see, the cranberry sauce on the stuffing is what makes the stuffing that much better.
No. You got to eat plain.
So
No gook on the stuffing.
Have I ever told you guys our leftover thing we do occasionally? The next morning, take your mashed potatoes and your stuffing, you mix them together, make a patty, and you fry that. Then you put a little turkey on top of it, not pan fry, not deep fry it. Little turkey on top of that, poached egg and hollandaise sauce on top of that. Make a little Thanksgiving eggs Benedict, delicious.
That
actually sounds pretty incredible. That
and
sounds pretty incredible.
Steve, you can't have that on your diet. I'm sorry.
No, but even if I did, I would not have that.
No, it's not.
You guys have not named one good thing so far. Okay.
Steve, how did you need it like a diet? You hate all food anyway.
It's it's easy for me.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
All right.
I didn't notice when I changed my diet, and we're joking, but I'm talking about my health. I wrote about this, so this is a public info. As a result of the heart issue, which I read about, which by the way is an update. I'm doing much better. Yeah. But I totally eliminated everything that's not healthy, so I now eat a 100% healthy diet.
Right.
Which is for most the average person.
Vegetarian.
No, it's a balanced diet. Includes a lot of protein, which is meat.
Right.
I mean, you can get protein out of stuff, but I mean, it's much more difficult.
Nuts and whatever.
Yeah.
Soy, which there's only one good way to eat soy, and it's not healthy. So
on Chinese food in a sauce.
Deep fried in Chinese sauce. That's the best way to eat soy. Well, why don't we talk about the game that happened on the weekend, the Thanksgiving weekend? I actually went to the game. So a friend of ours, Heather, who actually had worked on my dad's campaign many years ago, and she's still local. She has season tickets, and she got COVID, so she emailed me or texted my wife, I think it was actually first, at 9-something in the morning and said, hey, you guys want free tickets to the game? And I was like, free, I'm there.
I'm kind of hurt that you didn't invite me.
Yeah, at 9:30 on Sunday.
I might have been.
I don't think the flight would have made it, Steve.
Maybe not. Need the Concorde.
Yeah, it was actually very hard to find somebody for the other ticket because most people are out of town. The first person I invited, he also was sick, not with COVID, but my friend Mauricio, who's he's a barber at the place I get my haircut. He's not the person I go to, but he actually hangs out there because he just wants to talk about football. So
did you eventually find a date?
Yeah. I got my friend Ben to come along. So, it was nice because it was free. We had decent tickets right behind the end zone, like 16th row in the back of the end zone. So that's not bad.
That's kind of hard to see the other opposing end zone, isn't it? To really keep a track of what's going on with seats like that?
It was a little difficult. Yeah. Yeah.
Of course, I guess you have the video screen to watch.
Sure. But... Yeah, you got that big screen. But, it was very rainy. It was a little cold. And it just reinforced my belief. Football belongs outside. And indoor stadiums are un-American and should be banned from this country.
See, this is one thing that Alex and I vehemently disagree on. Because I have no problem with an indoor stadium. And make it more comfortable for me, I'm down with it. If I can go to a game in Detroit in December and not bring a jacket, I'm all for that.
I assume you still need.
I'm actually with Alex on that one. Bring on the snow, bring on the rain, mud. Yeah.
I'm fine being a minority opinion again.
Yeah. Well, hey, you're in the majority opinion with the NFL owners because I think they would build all arenas if they could.
Well, they do that so they can have a Taylor Swift concert in January.
Yeah, I know. I know why they do it. Yeah.
I mean, not if you're Ticketmaster. Apparently, you don't want a Taylor Swift concert, but that's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, that's a whole nother thing.
Well, before we get to the game, Alex, the Sean Taylor thing.
Sure. Why don't we talk about that?
Yeah, let's do that.
So the team, it was Sean Taylor Day. They said for weeks that there was going to be. We'd all heard statue, right? Like that's what the press was saying. I guess was statue.
I heard it like 2 days before, but
sure.
Yeah.
Sure. They kept on saying statue. Oh no, it's not a statue. It's a memorial, apparently. And if you were expecting a statue, I can understand the disappointment because it was just his helmet and jersey and pants on a mannequin.
In a
fun,
mannequin.
on a wire mannequin in a very fun little light up display in the end zone.
Oh, it was in the end zone? Because didn't you send a picture out or something? I saw a picture somewhere. It looked like it was somewhere
it's behind the
covered.
end zone, I should say. Not.
Oh, okay.
It's not like on the field. It's back in the stands.
Okay.
Yeah. So here's the thing. When I took that picture, I didn't know that was even the memorial.
Oh, you
I
didn't?
was just like, oh, they put up Sean Taylor's jersey. That must be where the memorial thing's going to happen. So I snapped a photo.
Wow.
Because there was a mob there, and I could see Sean Taylor's brother was there. He was being interviewed, like
Gabe.
right in front of where I was trying to get through. So I was like, oh, that's what's going on here, I guess. But I don't like the big crowds anyway, Steve. I'm like you, and like just being in a sea of people is not fun. So yeah, I wasn't gonna hang out there and just watch that. But yeah, it seemed like the reaction was mostly negative from what I saw initially.
Well, Dave, you wrote about it, so you.
Yeah, that was kind of what I was catching on with that, and initially I was kind of with all that, because at first I thought it was going to be a statue too as well, and there was going to be this whole big grandeur thing going on and so forth. But
right.
But then when I saw the unveiling of everything and so forth, I was like everybody else. I'm like, I was kind of weak, but when the following day, when I was able to kind of go through and read some information on what other people were posting, and then someone put a clipping on what the actual announcement was by the one that I saw anyway, there was nothing about a statue. It just talked about memorial, and that was about it. But part of everything was talked about. But apparently, the Taylor family, especially his daughter, Jackie Taylor, had a lot of say in everything that was going to go on, because this is kind of like a jumping point for the Sean Taylor Legacy Project too as well. Right. It was all just kind of tied together. So from what I was understanding and what I've read and some of the things that I linked in the article is there was a lot of input from the family what they wanted to have done. I think the way the team kind of advertised it, I think they kind of got the fans hoping for one thing, and it kind of got them built up for some real big grandeur thing to come unveiled.
Right.
But obviously it fell way short of all that. And of course the soccer cleats, I'll be honest, I had no idea that he wore soccer cleats on game day until Jackie Taylor was talking about that. And it was the reporters, Darren Hayes, I think it was, that came out and showed a picture of him. And I put that link in my article. I had no idea you wore soccer cleats. So that was actually something new for me.
It amazes me how there was like a small segment who act like they knew that the whole time. No,
right.
Yeah.
Nobody knew that.
No.
If there's anybody that would have known it, it would have been you, Alex.
And am I wrong?
Out of anybody in this world, because you're Mr. Uniform.
Yeah, that's true.
In thinking that the only difference between a soccer cleat and a football cleat is one little thing in the toe? Is that the only difference?
It's I think the layout of the toe.
Yeah,
point.
That's all the difference. So here's my thought.
The lighter weight though is another thing.
What's that? Oh yeah.
It's also a little more narrow, isn't it? Too?
I don't know. Again,
it kind of hugs your foot a little bit more.
Nobody would have ever known that.
No.
I thought the whole thing looked real low rent. If they're going to do Sean Taylor Memorial, I mean, I think the three of us could have gone to Dick's Sporting Goods within an hour and about $500 and done about that good. I mean,
we need 1,000 because we need to buy a mannequin.
Yeah, that's true. Throw the mannequin in there or steal it or something. But point is, it looked low rent to me. And if you're going to honor a guy who's probably the most beloved player of this generation,
sure,
because of everything that happened. And I think Sean Taylor would have been in the Hall of Fame if he lived. I mean, I thought he was that good.
Oh,
Yeah.
he would have redefined the position.
Why don't you do a statue? And I'll take your word for it. I read your article. I'll take your word for it. About the now. I didn't read the announcement, but if you're gonna do it, do a bronze statue.
Right.
Well, I wonder.
Bronze.
I wonder. To your point, I think it was you that made a comment, Alex, about the fact that they probably didn't want to do a statue yet because once they go to a new stadium, they don't want to have to move it.
Oh,
It's
that's
a bad.
garbage. They
It's a
can move
bad.
it.
That's a bad excuse.
Yeah,
Right.
But I
that's
wouldn't be
dumb.
surprised if they're part of the new stadium.
Well,
Maybe they do. Maybe they do kind of an unveiling and not just Sean
but
Taylor.
there's not even a stadium plan, Dave.
I get that.
You
I get that, but in the back of their mind, they're probably like, well, when we do this, let's include this, and we'll have like a Legends Row or something like that.
maybe.
Right. I mean, that's what I would do.
I don't know.
I just think it's another in a long line of poorly executed, kind of low rent PR moves.
Yeah.
That this team is famous. Look at the uniform unveiling was a disaster.
Right.
It was everything this team does ends up like that. They don't do anything. London Fletcher on his London Fletcher Day. Let's spell his name wrong. I mean, all kinds of things like that. And this is just another one. Is it the worst thing in the world? No. If Jackie's happy, ultimately that's the most important thing.
I can't get too angry if his daughter
I'm not
and
angry,
his family's happy.
but
Yeah.
I just thought it was just low rent.
Right.
I got to ask Steve Rosenberg what they thought about it. I'll try to get a hold of him.
Well, his dad loved it too, supposedly. He was there.
It's like a comment I made on Twitter anyway. It's like my bar is so low in terms of anything that Dan Snyder does or organizes that I don't even get that upset over something like that anyways anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like
you have a point though. I mean, the real point is no matter what it looked like, if Jackie Taylor in particular was happy,
right,
then it's fine with me. I just thought it was just par for the course for a moribund, terrible franchise.
And I'm going to say something that people might take the wrong way. Can we take a year and lay off the whole Sean Taylor memorializing thing now? Because this has been 3 years in a row. Oh, it's Sean Taylor Road. Oh, we're putting up a memorial. And then we did something in between that. They retired his number officially.
But it was totally out of the blue too.
Yeah, well, all of them have been. It's always
that's
been
what I'm saying.
a week or two
Everything is
notice.
the last minute. Oh yeah, we're gonna do Sean Taylor. It's like we need some good press. What can we generate? Let's use the ghost of Sean Taylor to make people happy.
That's exactly what they did. I mean, from day one, we were doing it was everything to try to lighten everything that was going on with Dan and all the reports, the scandals, and everything, and then the rebranding and stuff like that. It's just. They use Sean Taylor as what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, just shield. There you go. Yeah,
it's a PR shield.
It's a pretty, cynical thing to do, really. That's my bigger problem with the whole thing is that what you guys are saying. Because you're right. If you go back, the Sean Taylor uniform thing. Oh, look, we're going to do this, and it's in 3 days or whatever. And this is the same thing. Like maybe because I don't really pay attention to the certainly all of that as much as I used to. So I heard about this for Thursday or Friday or something.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it came out sooner than that, but that's when I knew about it. Was then.
So the Sean Taylor Road thing.
No, I'm talking about this statue memorial thing.
Yeah. This one it felt very last minute again, but. Yeah. The Sean Taylor Road thing, it was like they mentioned it on a Thursday and did it on a Sunday,
Yeah, the uniform retirement was kind of the same.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there was a little more notice that it was going to happen because they said, hey, we're going to retire a number every year or something like that. And that's going to be
glad of one thing. They did not put him in legitimate Redskin uniform. At least they did that.
Yeah.
Thank God.
And the wrong jersey, though.
What's that?
But the wrong jersey.
It was a Nike jersey. It was, and when he died, they were still a Reebok.
Who knows that? You guys knew that and recognized that?
I noticed that.
Yes.
I would never in a million years have noticed that.
That's because the jersey I have of his is Reebok.
Right.
That was and that was one of the last ones that were made.
I mean, it's certainly it's another problem, but that's in the world of Redskins Washington franchise problems. That's pretty minor, right?
Also, they need to put the tape on the face mask, I believe. I don't think it had the tape on the face mask.
No, yeah, they had to do that.
Yeah.
In fact, that's why I keep meaning to do mine up there right now soon.
The tape on the face mask. And I was arguing with another uniform guy that you should do the weird socks he would wear, but they were awful looking, so it's fine.
But this is what the kind of thing that happens last minute when you do things last minute.
Sure.
If you'd planned this out 6 months ahead of time and said, November 20 whatever, on week 12 we're going to do a Sean Taylor memorial, and think about it, in the off season, all these details you guys are talking about would have been easily arranged.
Well,
but I will
I
say
thought,
the octagon display case with the underlighting is pretty sweet. But
right.
Yeah.
I thought they actually announced this back in April, which is why I was kind of as disappointed as I was, because I thought they actually announced that. I thought for sure they announced this early in the
They
year.
may have
Well, if
said
they did,
something. They
if
didn't
they
make a
did,
big
then
deal
that's
out of
even
it.
more of an
Yeah.
problem. You have. I didn't see that, but I'll take your word for it. And if they did, then there's no excuse for any of this.
Yeah.
Right. All right. Well, why don't we move on to the game?
Okay.
Good win versus Atlanta. Sloppy game, obviously, because of the weather. You had to be run heavy. The one thing I noticed sitting in the stands, it felt like that game went by very quickly, because I think both
very quickly.
Yeah, I think both teams are just like, we don't want to drag this thing
You don't
out
want to
if we
be
don't
here.
have to. Yeah. Also, just the nature of the running game, being these two run heavy teams. So some things I noticed that I don't think I've seen a lot of people talk about, and maybe it's just because of where I was sitting. People were critical of Heineke's overall numbers, I know he had an interception, and I get
14 for 23, 138 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, quarterback rating of 80. Screens blocked, 88.
Okay. The thing I saw that I liked, he throws with a lot more anticipation than I realized. On at least half those passes, I didn't see anybody open when he threw the ball, and then Terry or whoever it was would suddenly open and there where the ball was going to be. So I would say I would give him some more credit for that than I've given him in the past. And maybe this was just also a good game, who knows? But it looks like guys are pretty well covered the whole time, and he still throws the ball. And then Terry just does something where he just gets open last second. But that's what Terry McLaurin does all the time, I guess, is part of it. The thing I noticed, and this is something I noticed with the Falcons, a difference between their running style and Washington's running style. Watching it on the field, it was so much harder to figure out who on the Falcons had the ball on every run play, because one, Mariota's way more mobile, and so he's a running threat, and so you're looking for both of them. But even when it obviously was not a he's going to keep it type play, he was still running like he was going to either pass the ball or run with the ball. Like he was, faking it the whole way through no matter what. I didn't get that vibe from Washington as much. Like, oh, it's a handoff to Brian Robinson. You can tell. Like there's no misdirection by the quarterback even on a handoff.
I mean, the team does have a very 1984 kind of vibe to it.
Sure.
The offense does. I mean, listen, it works. I mean, this team kind of reminds me like the Walmart bargain bin version of the 2000 whatever Baltimore Ravens that won the Super Bowl.
The 2000 Ravens, yeah.
Yeah, was it 2000?
Yeah.
Because they kind of have that vibe to them. Strong defense, bad offense, running game, not a great quarterback, but he inspires. That's kind of what the Ravens were, just at a much better level, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'm glad to hear what you saw about Taylor Heinicke. That's good. But listen, I mean, some of his decisions this game were Taylor Heinicke decisions. Of
course. That interception was a terrible
play. It was terrible. It was terrible.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the breakout stat in this game is Brian Robinson. I mean, this isn't news. Everybody knows that by now. It's Thursday for you guys listening. But, I mean, 18 for 105, 5.8 yards per attempt.
And that catch he had for a touchdown was a big boy play right there.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. I mean, that is the Brian Robinson that I thought we would get. He's not going to get 100 yards every game. Even Earl Campbell didn't do that. But if you can get that kind of Brian Robinson, maybe the running game is better than I thought it was.
Well, apparently there was an interview with Randy Jordan, or one of the coaches talked about Randy Jordan. They had talked about Randy Jordan was talking to Ron Rivera, I believe, and he was sitting there saying, "Is like I'm seeing that spring back in his step again." He's planting, coming off on. He's coming off with confidence, and he's driving forward off that leg now. It's like he's seeing that spring again, and we saw that in that game.
Maybe it took him a while to mentally get over it.
Oh yeah, it's just, I mean, it's no different than having like a ACL surgery in terms of you have to mentally ready for these games. You know what I mean? So, I mean, even though he had no structural damage, in the back of your mind, you're like, is there something waiting to pop? I don't know.
I mean, I've had knee surgery, and obviously I'm not this kind of athlete, but I remember the first time doing something, and this was in college when I had to be physical and stuff, and it's tough, man, coming back off a knee surgery, even though you know, like, objectively it's fine. It's hard to get into that mindset. It would be obviously 10 times harder for professional football players. So certainly I think that's probably. And the other thing is, I mean, he got shot, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
There's a PTSD involved in this, and there's mental stuff, and you can't just walk in and be fine. I mean, it's not like a Terminator movie, so it took him a while. And that having been said, I mean, Atlanta's run defense is not good, not great either. So it was a good game to kind of have him break out. But I hope he does, because Antonio Gibson, another stat I was going to bring up, 9 for 32, 3.6 yards per attempt. That is Antonio Gibson. That's what he's always been since he's been here. So, but Brian Robinson, outstanding game. And since I'm doing stats, there's not really too interesting receiving stats at all.
No.
Defense, it was Derek Forrest that was leading tackler, 11 total tackles, 8 solo. Jamin Davis, 10 tackles, and then the sacks were Montez Sweat with 1, and that was it. And on the Falcons side, and there's hardly anything interesting. Marcus Mariota, 15 for 25, 174 yards. Beyond that, not much. And
then, they had a good day on the ground overall. Atlanta.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
And mostly Mariota, I realized.
I mean, because like Tyler Algier was 11 for 54. Cordero Patterson 11 for 52. So together 22 carries, 106 yards, which is pretty decent. Almost 5 yards carry.
And I remember when it was halftime and we're in the stands, they're just like playing random stats that are going on throughout the NFL. At one point in the halftime, they're like, Marcus Mariota is right now 3rd in the NFL in rushing yards so far on the day.
On the day, oh yeah.
Yeah. Because he had like 45 yards or something like that in the first half.
6 for 49 at the end of the game.
Yeah. So most of that came in the first half then, which is interesting.
Yeah.
They kind of shut that down in the second half.
I think they used a lot of between Jamin Davis and Cam Curl coming up more in the box. It really kind of helped shadow and shut him down on that one.
Yeah.
So which is and that's the one thing. I mean, I think Jamin Davis is really becoming that guy for sideline to sideline presence that we like. And even though he faced a lot of scrutiny earlier in the year, and the coaches were being beaten up because they play him out of position and so forth, and it's you definitely have to give credit where credit is due, where he's come, how Jack Del Rio is using him now. It's just a shame that we don't have that middle linebacker presence, because Atlanta was able to literally double and triple team both Payne and Allen, because there was nothing in the middle that they even feared or worried about.
Right.
And that's no slight on Jamin Davis. That's not his role in this defense.
Right.
And then
he does occasionally blitz up the middle, but that's about it. Yeah.
But when
sorry, Dave, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
No, I just said this is one of Ron Rivera's great failings. He's failed in the offensive line, in how he structured the offensive line. He's failed in the linebacker core. Because don't forget, I mean, I think a lot of us probably wrote Jamin Davis off after the end of last year, saying the guy's a bust, and he was a bust. But maybe they shouldn't have ever. Maybe you need to evaluate your people better and realize what their skills and talents are. How about that, Ron?
And maybe you should keep depth just to be on the safe side.
And depth does not include John Bostic, for God's sakes. I mean, they didn't even bother to try to bring in a legit plus level starting inside
Bostic
linebacker.
Was their panic button move too.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, like that's not what you want.
And Ron Rivera has
and
nobody
just to clarify,
for that.
And just to clarify for people listening, when Davis is being called a bust, It's not. We're talking about how bad the player is today. He was drafted high in the first round to play a position that was not suited for him, a middle linebacker. He busted at that position. We're not saying the player himself is a bad player. So people have to realize that when we talk about this, because I got in a heated conversation because I gave early criticisms of him, and I give him praise now because he's in the right position.
Yeah.
It's like people have to stop thinking emotionally and start thinking logically when they hear statements like that, because he was a bust for where he was drafted for.
Hold on a minute. Wait a minute, Dave. So you're telling me that people on Twitter are not thinking logically? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Is that? I mean, could you write this down maybe? Because people don't understand this. Maybe you need to write a book about it to make people understand. This is Twitter's a hellscape, okay? Elon Musk or no Elon Musk, Twitter's a hellscape.
Well, see, the only problem is I'll use too many triggering words for some of these guys. And,
we talked about this.
Yeah, right.
Dave's good at triggering people.
Yeah. Dave's
by the way,
been getting in a lot of social media fights, I've noticed.
I sent my weekly tweet out today. Did you see, Alex?
Yeah, about soccer. I saw that.
That was just to stir some pee. I don't know if anybody did. And my other one was
you had a few responses, not a ton.
My other one last week was to call, who's that grouchy reporter, Tom Lovarro?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Now that became a thing.
Oh, did it? I didn't even read what
he like came back after you. It was a whole thing.
Of course, that was my intent. Tom, is his name Tom or Thom?
It's Tom.
Either way,
but he's got a THOL. He's got like two extra consonants.
Even I, who lives in Texas, knew about his reputation and how easy it was to stir idiots like him up. All I had to do was say one thing.
He got in a fight with your old co-host Rich.
Oh, he did?
Yeah. Like 2 weeks ago, he got in a fight with Rich. And
see, I did it for my own entertainment, and my entertainment value lasted about 5 minutes, and I realized this is stupid, and I put it away.
Yep, you should scroll back.
I might do that.
I wanted to go fight him too, because he was a real dick in his response.
Oh, was he really?
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm shook up. A reporter that doesn't think the world of me. Tragedy.
Yeah. Tom Lovarro's probably not going to be with us much longer.
I did think I made fun of his family, though.
Mm-hmm.
I think I did make fun of his family, so that
did
might
you?
have been part. No, I think, you know what I said? Here's what I said. I said, because I did my first tweet, whatever it was, and I called his story stupid because it was stupid. He doesn't know what he's talking about. And then he said some idiotic thing about it. So my response before I got tired of it was, you should retire. Everybody but your family would be happy. That's what I said. And then I put it away and I forgot all about it. So.
Well, it's not really an insult. It's just facts.
My point was really that your family wouldn't want you in the house. How can they want to be around you? So, that was what I was trying to say.
Yeah. Tom Lovarro.
Facts before feelings, right?
Yeah, exactly.
How does somebody who sounds like he's complaining all the time be so successful on the radio? I don't understand.
Is he on the radio?
I thought he was on the radio for like 20 years in DC.
What station was he on?
He was on 980.
Yeah, he was on with Kevin Sheehan for a while too.
Yeah, they still do a podcast together.
Like to listen to anger. It's like Howard Stern, half a Howard Stern shtick or former shtick.
Right. Was him complaining and
complaining and angry. Yeah.
Well, see, that's what keeps drawing people back, because they want to sit there, hear what he has to say, call in there, yell at him, and it just causes. I mean, if you're nothing but rainbow, sunshine and rainbows on the radio, no one's going to tune you in.
So you're saying he got really ugly with me, though, huh?
It sounds like you might have read some of it already.
I read one of them. I didn't know if he had a.
I don't know if he responded again after that one, but that was pretty petty. His reaction, because here's the thing. I'm going to trust Steve, who has a legal background about a legal thing, not Tom Lovarro.
I mean, other than a reporter who doesn't know any of this?
Yeah. And a reporter for the Times. You never even were with the A-team paper in the area. You're with, like, the B- team.
Right.
Sorry, Rich. Our buddy Rick,
I'm not
Rick Snyder works for them.
I don't care enough to go back and figure this out. Sorry.
Yeah. We might need Rick Snyder to broker peace.
I don't care about peace. Why do I care?
I know.
Care less about it.
So some any other things that really stood out? The defense, I guess, held up in the end. The one thing that play where Mariota slipped and fell, and through the one big play, the one deep pass. I guess, busted coverage, all that stuff. I was sitting right behind where that happened. I knew right away he wasn't touched. Some of the drunkard fans around me, I had like one beer the whole day, so I was pretty sober watching it for me. The super drunk guys are all like pissed off. I think they all think it's still college rules, and if your knee touches the ground, you're down. But because I noticed it's a lot of like young UMD type guys who are around me. So
did it
look obvious on
it almost looked like part of the reason why it would look like broken coverage, because it seemed like, and you could tell me if I'm wrong, is that it looked like the defense itself, the secondary, thought maybe he might have been down and just kind of let their foot off the gas a little bit. So
I'd have to go back and look. I don't even really remember, to be honest. For me, what did we learn from this game about Washington? I think the only real thing we learned was what we talked about before, which is Brian Robinson. Maybe rounding in from all the rest of it has been pretty much exactly how this team has been for like a month and a half.
Yeah, the
Taylor
defense
Heineke's
playing stout,
lousy, but he's got moxie. All of that defense, much better than they were at the beginning of the game. The attitude of the players, great. They're beating teams they should beat, or at least beating teams that they have a realistic shot at beating, which is Atlanta, because Atlanta didn't suck. Atlanta just was a mediocre team. Right. They should have beat the Texans. They did beat the Texans. So it's what's most impressive to me, I think, overall, is that this team has not faltered, and we haven't seen that in a long time from Washington.
Right.
Yeah,
they beat who they beat, and they don't falter. So that's, if you want to get a lesson, would be my lesson learned out of this.
And they're 6-1 now in the last 7 weeks. Apparently, the best record in the last 7 weeks of the NFL.
Is that really the case?
Yep.
Yeah.
There's a couple teams that are 5-1, but they've had a bye week. So Washington hasn't. So they get that little boost. I think your points are all good. The one thing I'm not saying the offensive line is good. What I will say is, at the beginning of the season, they were like a person whose legs have been shot off and just hemorrhaging out blood through every vein in their body. Do you remember the scene where RoboCop gets killed in the first RoboCop movie? That was the offensive line at the beginning.
Yeah, but he's actually accurate with that description.
So I think that they've stabilized. They it's not good, but they're much more like they're playing together at least. Yeah. It's not like five guys who don't know what the other guys are doing.
I mean, that's totally fair. I think you're right. Yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah. So I definitely picked up, and it's been 2 weeks in a row now, no sacks. Am I right about that? I don't think they had a sack.
Well,
this
that's
week.
actually what I was just trying to figure out while you were talking.
Oh, okay. You were looking for that while I was
trying. Yeah. Well, because speaking of that, so Washington has surrendered 32 sacks this year. That's ranked 24th. Mm-hmm. What I wanted to know was what you were saying, which is because I can't remember.
When did the number start going down?
I know Carson Wentz got hit a lot in the beginning of the year.
I think he had one game where he had 8 sacks or something.
Some huge number. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So I think it's fair to say, without going through all this and adding it up, it has gotten a lot better in recent weeks. Yes,
it has. And Heineke and his being able to move a little more helps. But yeah, I think that there has been improved play too. The last thing I'll say, that one punt by Tressway was really incredible.
But you were in the end zone. Was that right in front of you?
It was not right in front of me, but I was on that side of the end zone. Yeah. So I was in like the left corner. It was in the right corner. So, it was close.
Cheer Wyatt. Were you wearing your Tressway?
I was wearing my Tressway jersey, and I ripped off my poncho to, boast my Tressway jersey on that play and on the end play where he got the running in the kicker call that won the game. So, because that was all on Tress, and he won us the game with
he deserved an Oscar for that, but. I'd like to thank the Academy. Is what
This is his.
saying.
Hey, you know what? This is the third game that he's actively contributed a win to, because he had those two muff punts that he created.
I don't know where he's ranked in the Pro Bowl voting, but I certainly hope he makes.
I think he's number 2 right now, is what I saw.
Is he?
Yeah. By the way, the Pro Bowl is going to be like a flag football game now. What's going on with that? Like
The Pro Bowl's just a waste of time. But to answer the sack question,
yeah.
so the last sacks Washington gave up they gave up 3 sacks to the Eagles 3 weeks ago. So they gave up 0 against Atlanta, and they gave up 0 against the Texans. So there's your answer. So yes, all these sacks a lot of them were stacked at the beginning of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know back to your point, Alex, on the offensive line and so forth, because we both had a nice little conversation with that Mark Tyler through Hogs Haven.
Yeah, we were talking with him, right?
Yeah, and he brought some interesting points that, early in the year, we were not able to run the 12 personnel sets we see now today because we didn't have the healthy tight ends for it. And Scott Turner has been able to run a much more diverse and effective running game, especially utilizing Curtis Samuels, these tight ends and so forth today than what we were in the beginning of the year. And he really dives into film really, really deep. And then I've seen some of his clips. He kind of makes some valid points and all that and so forth. But I think we're seeing that now with our tight ends coming back. And Scott Turner's utilizing more heavy sets, bigger sets, and it's been really, really obviously helping the running game, of course. But I think the one thing that's really kind of helped with the passing game is it's allowing Taylor Heineke to not get as much pressure in his face, especially coming up in the center of or interior of our offensive line. And that led to one question of, if Wentz right now was in this position, would this offense be potentially a little more explosive because of his stronger arm? Now, I will agree with one thing that I know you guys have said and what Mark says. Wentz doesn't have the same anticipation that Heineke has. So the intermediate passing game would be much different than if you had Wentz in there, sure. In terms of, Wentz holds on to the ball far too much longer, which is another thing that we had talked about, which makes sense. He's got that gunslinger mentality. So if he's trying to get that hero ball downfield all the time, it's not going to work. He's not going to have that much time to do that. So would he actually change his own game and play within the system? That I had no idea. But what's enticing is if he's able to play a little more within the system with that stronger arm downfield, I think that's what's intriguing Ron Rivera and his staff, because I know there was a report by a beat writer saying that they're still kind of intrigued on what Wentz can do in this, with the way this team now, how strong the defense is playing on this offense with the weapons and everything. But there's intrigue, yes, but there's certain dynamics that Heineke has that Wentz just does not carry, and then vice versa. So
one of the national guys apparently put out this today, I think it was, that, Heineke's not the starter. It's week to week still. After they spent all day Sunday talking about how he was the starter for the rest of the year, which, of course, I never really thought he was going to be the starter for the rest of the year anyway. I was like, sure, they're going to say that.
I was a bit surprised, but why did they let that get out if that wasn't the case?
Yeah, well, who knows what's actually.
But they asked Taylor Heineke about it in the post-game interview after the Texans game.
Yeah.
And he basically said it's humbling or something. He acknowledged it. So I don't know if I believe that.
I don't know.
It's a good question. What is going to happen when Carson Wentz is fully healthy?
Right.
Who knows?
Because he has a 3-pick game this weekend, which I hope doesn't happen.
Pointed out, and as have others, that I think we're past the point now where he could possibly get, where the draft pick Washington gave up could possibly be upgraded. So they could.
I think we're safe past the 70%.
So.
Especially,
I think they need one more game, I think, of Heineke starting, which obviously we'll get that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the marker was 6.5 games roughly.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So we should be there at this point. It is an interesting question. If Heineke has a bad game, will they maybe consider making a move?
Well, I think a point to be raised here also is the team generally looked terrible at the beginning of the year. It was not just Carson Wentz. They looked totally out of sync. The defense was horrible, terrible.
Yep.
Right. And a lot of things have improved. Ron Rivera's teams, a lot of them have historically started slow. And so I don't necessarily put the whole thing on Carson Wentz. I don't think that's what Mark was saying anyway. But
No.
I mean, I hadn't even read it for what you guys are saying. So would it be? I mean, look, Carson does have a way better arm, way stronger arm than Taylor.
Right, and his critique has always been that Taylor's not going to get the deep ball down the sidelines,
and he makes dumb mistakes.
Right. Yeah.
Those are the criteria. But it did, all that having been said, it did seem like Carson did a lot of hero ball.
Yeah.
Well, that's his game. That's always been his game.
Yeah. Like Rex Grossman, just screw it, chuck it deep. And so that didn't work out for him, I think he would have to be more contained, maybe. Conservative may be a wrong word, but conservative, contained in the way he plays, and adapt a little bit to make it work quite as well.
Well, the problem is, I remember when they first signed him or traded for him, seeing a stat line where he's not the thing about Carson Wentz is it's not like most quarterbacks are very accurate on the short stuff, right? He doesn't have that necessarily. Like he's about the same short, medium, deep. Whereas, a lot of these guys, because of the West Coast offense, it's like you complete 80% of your passes when it's 5 yards or less, right?
Hello, my name is Kirk Cousins. How are you?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Heineke's that way too. Heineke, everything about his style of play, he should be a West Coast quarterback, I feel like.
Probably.
He doesn't have the arm strength to be a deep ball guy, so he should be dinking and dunking, but they're still not using him that way.
Well, Taylor's not the best stay in the pocket, 3-step drop and let it go either. He seems to be best when things are going sideways. He's got to scramble, he's on the move.
True.
And it's always like by hook or by crook a little bit with him because his form, he said himself, his form can be terrible sometimes.
Right.
We've all seen it, but he just kind of makes it work. He's just got, it's bad to say, but I mean, it's like this indescribable, intangible thing that works for him. So I don't know if he
did those 2 underhanded passes this week that were just awful.
Yeah, right. I mean, you get stuff like that. So I don't know if he would be a great West Coast. I know what you're saying because he kind of needs to dink and dunk, but I don't know if he'd be a great like Jay Gruden West Coast offense guy necessarily because he can't just stand back there. And that was Robert Griffin's problem. Can't just stand back there and fire off shots.
Right.
I just think his problem is that if he has too much time to think, that's when his game really starts going south. That's and pretty much to the point of what you're saying.
Yep.
It's just so he's got to be a guy who gets as soon as he hits his third step, he has to know right where he's going to go with the ball. Or as you said, the pocket breaks down, he rolls out, and he improvises on the run and so forth.
Then he's chucking things underhanded.
Yes.
All of a sudden.
Well, he watched Mahomes too, I guess, apparently. So he was like, oh, I can do that.
That worked out for Mahomes.
I know that.
0 for 2 for you, Taylor. Just settle down. All right, let's talk about this game coming up against the Giants because obviously that's going to be these next 2 games determine if Washington makes the playoffs or not. I don't think that can be understated. That if they split, they have a shot. If they win both, they've pretty much locked in at least the 7th seed.
Absolute disaster, at least. Yeah.
Yeah. But they got to win this first one. It's the Giants are going to have a little extra rest because they played Thursday. I don't think that actually matters as much as some people say, but
probably not. A lot of times they have Friday off anyway. I mean, they're not really practicing.
Yeah.
So I think the Giants and Washington are very similar teams in many respects.
Sure.
They have
same with Atlanta.
Yeah, that's right. All 3 of those teams are kind of similar. The advantage I think Washington has over the Giants are 2 things. One, the Giants' rushing defense is terrible. I saw and Dave, you sent texted us a screenshot of a tweet from John Keim talking about how awful the Giants were for first contact for running back, but then better after the, in yards after contact. But the bottom line is they're giving up, I think, 5.2 yards per attempt.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's worse than Atlanta. So that's
Mm-hmm.
one thing. And the other thing is the Giants have a mountain of injuries.
Yes.
Yep.
Mount Everest of injuries is the Giants, and some of their key people hurt. Sterling Shepard out for the year.
Right.
Their entire receiving core is a disaster for injuries. So I think those two things really help them. And I think Washington needs to keep doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
Keep it up. What's important to me, what is important, my keys to the game, live up to the moment. Like you said, Alex, it's these two games are the most important games of the season so far. Don't fold. They folded many times against the Giants, particularly in the Meadowlands.
Yeah.
Second thing, run the ball and then run it again. Like I just said, 5.2 yards per carry. And the other thing is control the Giants' ground game, because they've got a mediocre quarterback in Daniel Jones and a bunch of second-string receivers.
Mm-hmm.
Then they have a guy who's a Pro Bowl level back in Saquon Barkley. Those are my keys. I'm done.
I mean, it is really interesting when you look at the Giants' numbers. They mirror Atlanta so much in terms of like you said, they don't really have any receivers. They have a good running quarterback. I mean, because Daniel Jones has 451 rushing yards. I think that's more than anyone on the Commanders right now. None of our running backs have 450 yet, I don't believe. And Saquon Barkley is going to break the 1,000 marker. I mean, even if Washington has a great day,
972. He's gonna be over 1,000 this week, most likely.
Yeah. You could have a great day. He's getting 8 yards. So it's just going to happen.
Well, it's 28, but yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, 28 yards. But yeah, they have a great running game. But so obviously, it's a very simple game plan. It's the game plan you used last week. Focus on stopping the run game. Focus on limiting Daniel Jones when he tries to scramble, just like you did last week versus Marcus Mariota and the Falcons. And yeah, you're going to have to obviously, probably leave one safety back most of the time. But this is not a game where you're going to have to play a lot of guys deep, I think, all game long. Giants really only have one receiving threat in Darius Slayton at this point. So,
Well, and the other thing is, they have not played well in recent weeks.
No.
They lost to the Seahawks, who aren't the Seahawks of old.
Well, they're decent, though.
They are, but we're not talking about the Russell Wilson-led Super Bowl contending Seahawks. The Texans, 24-16, not a great game. They got beat fairly handily by the Lions. Played decently against Dallas, but that's Dallas. There's always a wild card factor in these NFC East games. You never know what's going to happen. They're usually competitive. So I just think the team that lives up to the moment most is probably going to win.
For me, don't fall into the trap. This is a perfect trap game for them. Because, everything aligns well with the running game. They're running the ball. Giants can't stop anybody on the ground. The only receiver they have to worry about is Darius Slayton. Don't let him get behind coverage. I'm not as concerned with this defense as I was in the past because of Forrest back there covering the deep third like he is and the range he has. I think we're actually okay on that part. Don't allow Daniel Jones and do not allow his mobility to take over the game because he is a mobile quarterback. He can run and he can get outside the pocket and so forth. And we saw what happened with Mariota early in the game. But I think they have the formula to help. I think they figured out the formula to help contain some of these mobile quarterbacks. Just don't fall into the trap, man, because Barkley, he's a Pro Bowl level running back, but their offensive line has been almost devastated with injuries the last couple of weeks now too. Even some of the Giants fans that I work with have said they in the last couple of weeks they've noticed a much different running style from Barkley. It's almost like run up the center, run right up on the center's rear, and that's it. If there's nothing there, he just goes down. Which is I haven't watched any Giants games, so I have no idea. So it's just like the line's in the shambles. They have no receivers. I think Bellinger, their tight end, is out for the game too as well.
Oh, is
You
he?
know,
Okay.
Well, I have injury report here. So Washington's injury report, the DNPs were Dax Milne, Benjamin St. Juste, Trey Turner. This is Wednesday. And then Gibson, Tyler Larson, Logan Thomas, Chase Young, all limited. So the Giants, the DNPs were the running back Gary Brightwell, sick. Josh Izidu, offensive line, I don't know much about him. Adoree Jackson, DNP. Richie James, DNP. Richie James is one of the guys filling in for one of the down receivers. And then Shane Lemieux. Bellinger was limited. He's got an eye problem apparently. So
Ooh, that's
yeah.
not fun.
And there's a bunch of other limited, but that's the point. So
Yeah.
that's
I mean, look, I think it's safe to say that this offense is going through two guys running. They don't even have like a really quality backup running back. So if you can put the clamps on Barkley, contain Jones, I would honestly want someone like Jamin Davis spying Daniel Jones a lot throughout this game. Just he's got the speed to at least help stop him.
yeah.
yeah.
But like I know you can't just do that a whole game, but
They don't. But yeah, certainly that's. This would be a game in which I think Jamin Davis could play an important role.
Absolutely.
Well, actually, I think you might see a little more Jamin Davis playing more of that spy role because of what you saw last game. I mean, they took Payne and Allen out with double and triple triple teams on blocking, and they had the middle of the field. The second half, they made Jack Doherty made the adjustments. I mean, granted, they still ran the ball well, but at least they weren't gashing us for big plays anymore because he utilized Bostic a little bit more, and he used Jamin Davis to keep Mariota contained and not getting those 14-yard gashes on us anymore. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if you see Jamin Davis coming in this game and utilizing his speed and his athleticism to pretty much shut down Jones anyways.
That would be the hope at least, yeah.
Yeah. The thing that I noticed they were doing early on too was they were doing a lot of runs out to the edge to try and tire out Allen and Payne. I do think it worked somewhat. Obviously, they didn't have great games, either of them. They played okay, but it's not like it's not a multi-sack performance or anything.
Yeah.
Right.
So I will be.
The one thing the Giants don't have are those running backs that can stretch it to the outside like that. I mean, Barkley at one point was, but he's not that running back anymore. You know, he's more between the tackles.
Yeah, he's an A-B gap guy.
Yeah. So, I mean, he'll get you 4 yards here, 6 yards there, and then eventually may break a 40-yarder on you up the middle. Right. So, as far as stretching that defense, I don't think unless they use Slayton somehow like that, which they haven't all year, I don't see them always stretching out that defense like Atlanta was able to.
Not effectively, at least.
Yeah.
Right.
And I wonder, of course, there is a lot of talk that this should be the game where we finally see Chase Young coming back, but we've heard that for weeks now, so I'm not holding my breath. You do have to wonder how that would play into it as well, though. Obviously, if he's back out there and he's able to perform, that would be a big game changer.
I think Chase is going to want to play.
I
do. I think so because he has something to prove.
He does.
And next year is contract year.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, I know the team has an option, but they need to make a decision on him one way or the other. They could re-sign him at the end of this year if they wanted to, as we said last week. So I think Chase is going to he can't really save the season, but he can show in the last few games that he's back. Or at least, and then he's not going to be the total disaster that he was before he got hurt last year.
Yeah.
So if he can kind of show people, give a few games of good, that will, I think, bode well for the future. So I think he's going to want to show that this year.
The question I have is, does he show that he can play within the system, how it's been effective right now?
Good question.
Because
that's a great question.
I mean, look, think back to LeVar Arrington. LeVar Arrington was a great, freaky, athletic linebacker / edge rusher type. Chase Young is similar in that, like, physical talent wise. He also freelanced quite a bit, even in that rookie year, where you could tell he wasn't necessarily playing his role very well all the time.
Right.
So, if he comes in, can he play his role and be dangerous? And yeah,
Good question.
because we've just had nobody guys behind him doing that, and they've been
Right.
effective. So,
Now, see, I wouldn't be surprised if their mindset was, well, we're on a roll, we're playing very well. The teams that we played in the last few weeks aren't exactly world beaters, and then playing the Giants maybe, and then Giants by Giants. I wouldn't be surprised if they're buying their time getting into the bye week. So I think he will play on like almost like a pitch count sort of thing, and then in this game, and then he'll have that bye week to, if there's any kind of like soreness from coming back after he can get through that, work through that, and if there's any issues that they see in the game, they can work through that, and they'll have 2 weeks to get ready for the Giants again. And I think the second time, I think he'll be back as a full-time starter. I'm kind of envisioning that being kind of their mindset.
But probably.
maybe.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. By the way, we didn't do game balls for Texans, so I'm just gonna.
All right. Let's do game balls, and then we'll do scores, and then we're done.
Yeah, I just realized I'll throw mine out.
Right.
Offense, it's got to be Brian Robinson for me. Averaging 5.8 yards per carry. That's just he was the driving force. And defense, I'm going Deron Payne because he made the play of the day. Tipped the ball that was intercepted in the end zone that saved the game for Washington. So Brian Robinson, Deron Payne for me.
Okay. I will go Brian Robinson, and I'll say Kendall Fuller because he caught the interception.
True. Fair enough.
Like they both deserve some credit.
Equally
for that.
important, perhaps more so even.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. All right. So that's what I'm going.
I'll go myself. I have to go with Deron Payne as well. I think he really dominated that front, took over that game, especially late in the game.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that one. And for offense, I'm gonna go. I mean, there were some picks on offense, but I just love that punt Tressway had. It just dropped it on the 5. The ball came up and it just spun and just dropped. There was no movement anywhere. It was an absolute gorgeous punt. It was right in front of you too, Alex, as well. On top
it was.
Of that.
It was right in front of me.
I don't think I've ever seen a punter more excited than he was on that punt.
Oh man, it was. I mean, I was excited when I saw that. I was like, "Are you kidding me? I've never seen that before." It was awesome. So I'm going to give him the offensive game ball for that.
I assume that the grass being as wet as it was plays into the ball just doing a weird thing like that. Like there's no other explanation.
Maybe Tress is just that good, Alex.
Maybe
he defies the laws of gravity with his punts.
Yes.
Or maybe he saw your number 5 jersey in the stands and he was like, you know what? I got
There's
something
a guy.
for you, Alex.
There's one guy who likes me.
He might know you. I mean, we've talked to him. We interviewed him.
Yeah. He wouldn't recognize me or anything. So
no.
Yeah.
No, wait a minute. Yes, he would. Of course, he knows what they know. He knows us well.
I think I've interviewed him twice. So.
Yeah, because somebody did him in training camp for like 2, and then we had him for like 20 minutes on the show too. Yeah.
Yep. All right. Let's do scores and then we're out. I think this is a tight one. I think Washington's favored by 1.5 points last I saw. I'm gonna go. This is gonna be. I'm gonna say Washington wins 21-20 though, like a 1-point nail biter type win again.
Dave,
I think we actually break a team combined 200 yards rushing in this game, and I think
I'm sorry. What?
Did
you say 200 yards rushing
combined?
Okay.
The Giants are that bad offensively or defensively. They really are, and I want to give some good vibes there. Is all I want to do, but I could see probably a 24-13 win.
Yeah, for me, I say I'm going back and forth about it even as we speak. But at the end of the day, Washington's been playing well recently, and the Giants haven't. And so I think Washington probably has, and I think the Giants' weaknesses play more into Washington than the vice versa. So I think, but I have no faith that Washington can score more than like 21, 22, 23 points. They just aren't.
Right.
So but the Giants suck too. So I think Alex is on the right track. I think I'll say 23-20 just to be different.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. I think there's an unwritten rule we have here, an unspoken rule that we don't like picking the same scores.
Well, that's boring.
Yeah, of course. All right, guys. We will bore you no longer with our random score predictions, and we hope you enjoy the game this weekend. Talk to you all later.
All right, take it easy.
Bye.